Once upon a time, costume jewelry was considered nothing more than junk, and that's where Carole Tanenbaum saw an opportunity. The former art curator turned her passion for vintage costume jewelry into a lucrative business venture. It has led to a collection of more than 30,000 pieces, some worth 10 times their original value. I spoke with the founder and the president of the Carole Tanenbaum Vintage Collection about the art of investing.
I didn't start it as a business. Carole Tanenbaum Vintage Collection evolved. So I started with a passion. I had seen a collection of the jewels, and I love them as objets of art, not as jewelry, but as objets of art. And so I started collecting it. And at some point, I couldn't wear it all. So I went to Holt Renfrew, and I spoke to the powers that be there, Joel Rath and Pat DeBrado, and they were wowed by it, and they gave me a department. So I all of a sudden was branded the Carole Tanenbaum Vintage Collection. Prices that were like $200 30 years ago are probably about $2,500 today if you could find the pieces.
And that's the key, right? I guess scarcity, because we're not talking about, as we're looking at the collection, we're not talking about precious stones. We're talking about how they were put together, the art of it.
The quality, the style, the wow factor. You can't get in real jewelry what you get in costume jewelry. I say real jewelry, but really I should say gemstone jewelry,
right,
because this is real, but it's costume. And what I look for in costume jewelry is the design. I look for the workmanship. I look for the colors. Like, you can't get a lot of these colors in real jewelry.
Right.
This is by Valentino. It's a runway piece. And he did it to make sure everybody saw it and that it was a grand, wonderful piece that went with his dresses on the runway. Likewise, these earrings by KJL are extravagant in every way, and we couldn't get that in real jewelry. This is done with rhinestones and with fake pearls, and with a color that's not a natural color, and yet they're a work of art. And that's really how I have gauged my business. I am the only person who does the collecting,
right,
so it's a singular eye, and I actually purchase them as works of art.
And so these pieces that you're holding right now, this one was one of your first.
Yes.
But it's skyrocketed in value. Why is that?
Because it was done in very small supply, and the demands now have become great. The museums are collecting, the art galleries are collecting, celebrities are collecting, they're on all the shows on television, so that they're rare, they're hard to find, and they were hard to find even at the time. I paid $250 for this very early on, I would say 30 years ago.
Right.
And now this piece is about $2,500. It's by Schreiner, and it's his ruffle pin. And this is one of my signature pieces. People always know me as a Schreiner girl because I love Schreiner's work. This also, by the way, is by Schreiner. So you can see that he was very unconventional. He created designs like an artist would create his palette. And then I am also very well known for my funky pieces. I love figurals, and this was a period when the world was in chaos. It was 1940s, so we were just going into war and the Depression, etc. And a group of jewelry figurals were made to just make people happy. And I love these pieces. They're not only historically significant, but they charm me. So this is not a valuable piece, but I value it in the same manner as I value my ruffle pin.
So are there anything out there today, that are the kind of bargains that you found 30 years ago? Are those bargains getting harder to come by?
No, you just have to be creative. Like, I particularly love the wooden pieces from the 30s. They're mostly figurals. They're very well articulated. They're made by hand. Horses, cowboys, animals, and they charm me, and very sophisticated people are collecting them. Likewise, copper jewelry from the 40s is very important today. because they have the modern look, and the modern look is in with furniture, with art, and with jewelry. And these pieces are very affordable, and you could still find them. You can go to flea markets, you can go to antique shows, and you could find them for like $100, $125, and they're really beautiful pieces. So you just have to be creative in your looking, in your search. You have to find an area that pleases you and go with it.
And what about this, notion of, it's not precious stones, so how do you really assess the value? How do you, try and invest in this type of jewelry versus something that is diamond, emerald, sapphire?
Right, that's a very good question. I'm always asked about that, and I think that this is an area total and apart from gemstone jewelry. In fact, it's competing in prices on the market, on auction block. Some of the very fine pieces are very expensive. But I think that when one looks at these pieces, they have to look for the quality of construction. How are these pieces made? Are the stones unusual? Is it in original condition? And all of these characteristics add to eventual investments. And that's, I don't collect for investment purposes, but I have found that with my collection, I have invested unbeknownst to me.
And it's certainly something celebrities, as you mentioned, are catching on to, even with this piece.
It's Silk Threads by Hattie Carnegie, and Michelle Obama has one of these. She's worn it on many occasions for press. And again, it has a real originality to it, unconventional. It's made with with silk. You wouldn't expect it to last the years. This was made in the 70s.
Wow.
And it really, it has a real wow factor. When you look at it, people take notice. Sarah Jessica Parker is a very, very big fan of vintage. She's bought many pieces from the Carole Tanenbaum collection, and she's a fashionista. She's a true original. So she's thrown on and she's created the look of multiple bracelets, multiple necklaces, things that don't go together. And yet, when you look at her, it's a very creative style, and people want to mimic that. And so that has become very popular because of people like Sarah Jessica Parker.
And you've collected some great pieces that perhaps many people don't know are from designers. This is actually Chanel, you were mentioning, and,
yes.
And so is this one.
These are early pieces of Chanel, and sometimes you have to stretch your limits. These are very unusual pieces, perhaps one of a kind, maybe prototypes. It's what they look like, the design, the originality, the scale, the color, and the wow.
If you'd like another look at couture baubles, beating heart cells, or cars that just make your heart race, you can go online to bnn.ca. Thank you for joining us for our special look at Big Spenders, Big Returns.